Okay, we are all live. Hello, everyone. I am Marita Greenidge, and I am the Marketing and Communications Manager at IAYT, the International Association of Yoga Therapists. And I'm joined today by my colleague, our membership manager, Kelly Freeman, and some of our really wonderful presenters who will be at SYTAR, our Symposium on Yoga Therapy and Research. This is actually going to be our final live stream with our presenters. So this is the third and final one. And we like to do these so that you can get an understanding, get to know a little bit about the presenters and understand their sessions. We find that helps to lift it a little off the page. You know, you can read about a session, but just being able to interact and hear what someone is going to share, that tends to help. It helps you choose what concurrent session you might want to attend as well. So before we get started, as we typically do, we want to take a brief moment to arrive together. So I will invite you now to sit how you feel comfortable, whatever feels comfortable for you at this point in time. You can choose to keep your eyes open, or if you want to close them, go ahead. You kind of feel it where you're at this moment. Now let's just begin to notice what's happening with our bodies. We're not in the space of making adjustments, it's just in that space of noticing. How does your body feel right now? And what's happening with your breath? And then maybe also take a moment to notice what might be going on within your mind. Maybe you notice your body making contact with your seat. Maybe you're feeling your feet on the floor. Or maybe you're like me, I like to sit in Sukhasana. That's the easy pose. Now we take these moments just really to notice, being mindful of how we're arriving. Now we can move to a space of making any little adjustments that we think we may need. And going into those areas where we tend to hold most of our attention. So maybe inviting some softness around the eyes. Maybe some softness by the jaw. Maybe find a little bit of ease by the shoulders. Sometimes we're giving just a little bit more than we need to hold our body upright. So check in a little bit with the core. And maybe invite some softness with the breath. Some nice, easy breathing. And that's whatever ease means for you. And as you've made those changes, maybe note what is happening in your mind again. Is there just a little bit more space in the mind? If there's anything whirling around there, I invite you to think about grouping it together and just placing it off to the side, inviting even a little bit more space. I'm just going to give you a few more moments just to be right here, present. And gently we bring a little bit more awareness back into the body. Maybe move around your fingers or toes a little bit. And if your eyes are closed, I invite you to open them. And here we are again. Thank you. Welcome, Lee. I'm so delighted you're able to make it despite those little tech issues. You know, that's the technology for you these days. So welcome again, everyone. So as I mentioned earlier, some of you might be joining here again. We have a couple presenters from our SYTAR conference, which is our Symposium on Yoga Therapy and Research. And it's our annual practitioner conference, which is taking place June 11th to 13th in Costa Mesa, California, at the Hilton, Orange County. So this year, the conference is actually going to include the full Symposium on Yoga Research. So you're going to have a dedicated research track, and that is designed to strengthen this bridge between evidence and practice. So it's a space where you can feel inspired, connect, and get the latest in both the practice and the science of yoga therapy. At the conference, you typically find a mix of students, new graduates, yoga researchers. Well, this year you're going to have more yoga researchers, healthcare professionals, seasoned yoga therapists, and yoga teachers. So it's really a very rich and engaging experience. If you would like to learn more about SYTAR, I do invite you to visit our website. It is sytar.org. And there is a QR code here. If you're joining from your computer, there's a QR code in the top left-hand corner, and you can scan that, and that's going to take you directly to the page. So there are only a few more opportunities here to get your registration in before early bird ends. Early bird is going to end on May 11th, and I invite you to please don't miss that opportunity to save $100. Every full registration actually includes the recordings, and that's going to be the recordings from both the research track and the practice track, and that's over 540 in value. So this is your time, great value. Invite you to please go register. So enough of me here chatting. Let's get started with our first presenter. And we're going to begin with Rob Guilmette. And Rob is a CIAYT, and he will be doing a morning practice. His practice is going to be on Friday, and that's from 7 to 8 a.m. It's called Gentle Asana and Pranayama. And it's going to be a bilingual practice. So it's going to be offered in both English and Spanish, which is pretty exciting. So our morning practices, they offer this shared space to move and breathe before you jump into the day. And we've also included recently our afternoon practices because it was requested that persons wanted to have like a second practice in the day. So the morning practices are 1 hour and the afternoon sessions are 30 minutes. So Rob has been teaching yoga since 2013, and he also leads group and individual sound meditation sessions. He's passionate about making yoga accessible to all, teaching in both English and Spanish, as I just mentioned, and reaching communities that don't always have access. So he has worked in schools, teacher trainings, and addiction recovery settings. And he offers workshops on mental health, self-care, and yoga nidra. If you want to find out a little bit more about Rob, you can visit that same page, top right-hand corner, SYTAR.org, and visit the presenter page and go into that morning practice session. Sorry, that morning practice section, not session. So Rob, can you share a little bit about your session at SYTAR and what attendees can look forward to?
Yes, hi everybody. And thank you, Marita, for that lovely centering. That felt nice. Yeah, so like you said, my work focuses on simple breath-centered practices. And the session at SYTAR, what I was thinking is to have something that's supportive and accessible for everybody who's showing up. And at the same time, to demonstrate how practices don't need to be necessarily complex to be effective. So we generally start with a little bit of a check-in, and then we will establish the breath, and then we go through simple movements, and the movements are designed to strengthen and lengthen our bodies. And what I was wanting to show, because teaching in Spanish is not my native language, but it's something that developed with the support of my students over the years. I actually began by finding a children's picture Spanish dictionary, and it showed me all the body parts. And then I learned inhalar, exhalar, and basic movements. And over time, with the help and feedback of my students, I've been refining it. So I really wanted to show that by learning to speak in the language of the people showing up to class, it helps to bridge the gap. It helps to foster a more inclusive and accessible space. So for other yoga teachers and yoga therapists, considering offering their work in a bilingual format. So that's what I had in mind. And then the theme, simplicity, gentle asana pranayama, is just coming back to that idea that whenever we get back to the basics, the fundamentals, the effect can be profound. And when I work with my groups that are bilingual, the way I like to do it is to offer one cue in English, one cue in Spanish, and then space to feel. And that's why the simple approach works. Una instrucción en inglés, una instrucción en español, y espacio para sentir. And that way people can hear it in their language, they can get what we're doing, and then have a chance to just move with their breathing. So yeah, the session in mind, simple supportive practice for everyone there to start our day, gentle movements, and then we close out with a short pranayama and deep relaxation. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I love the focus on simplicity. Like so often we feel like we need to bring a lot of complexity into everything. And I have this discussion a lot with my friends. It's really simple. It's even for skincare, hair care, because you're shown so many things and it's told that there's so many steps. There's so many steps to do every single thing. But in reality, the basics, just keeping everything simple, I think that that's quite important. So I'm glad that you mentioned that you don't have to be complicated to be effective. We really love this inclusivity that you are offering here with the practice, and you're doing it both in English and Spanish. And it was cool. So I was wondering how that was actually going to work as well, with like, you know, first going into English, then going into Spanish. So I'm glad that you showed that. Does this reflects the way that you typically offer your sessions, just in general?
Yeah, not all my classes are bilingual, but when I have native Spanish speakers, I will do that. And it always just depends, you know, like any group yoga session, you see who's there and you get a feel for what is the need. The other thing I wanted to mention is for SYTAR, if there are native Spanish speakers, they'll have an opportunity to practice in their native language at the conference. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And the important thing is what you said, it's not native, right? And you didn't go out there. It's like you decided that you were going to go out there because you wanted this inclusivity and learn it just like a little bit, step by step. That is really, really awesome. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rob.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. The next presenter that we will be talking with is Tina Cartwright. I'll start by sharing just a bit about Tina's background. Dr. Tina Cartwright is an associate professor in health psychology at the University of Westminster and leads the Applied Yoga Research Group. Her work explores lived experiences of long-term health conditions and the role of yoga in supporting well-being across healthcare, education, and workplace settings. She has also led the evaluation of the UK's first yoga social prescribing program. And Tina is one of our research presenters for the research track at SYTAR. Her presentation is scheduled for Thursday, June 11th, and it's in the block beginning at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. And her talk is called Yoga for Healthcare Professionals, Understanding Barriers, Facilitators, and Impact. Tina, welcome. Can you tell us, hi, can you give us an overview of what you'll be discussing and what people can take away from your talk at SYTAR?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction, Kelly, and also for the opportunity to present at SYTAR. I'm really looking forward to all of the practice and research sessions. So, as you mentioned in your intro, a lot of my research in yoga is centered in healthcare settings and how to provide accessible yoga interventions for patients, but also for those who care for patients, health professionals. So that's going to be the focus of my presentation. So first of all, why is it important? Why should you come? How's it going to be relevant, especially to kind of therapists? So we know from the evidence, and I'm sure from kind of personal experience as well, that healthcare professionals report really high levels of burnout, stress, and poor mental health outcomes. So, and especially since the pandemic. So there's a real kind of push from kind of policy and from the healthcare settings themselves to provide wellbeing interventions for their healthcare staff. And of course, yoga is a really ideal intervention to offer because we know from the evidence that it has a positive impact on kind of self-perceived stress, but also kind of helps to regulate our nervous system. So in my session, we're going to look at, so it's, although it's about research, I also want it to be kind of practical and relevant. So we'll look at how yoga programs can be most effectively designed and implemented to really optimize engagement of healthcare professionals, bearing in mind, you know, it's a very complex environment in which they work, and how to maximize the impact as well, their health impacts. So drawing on our research, we're going to look at key barriers and facilitators and consider how we might work within those constraints to deliver yoga in healthcare settings. So that's the kind of the kind of context. And then I'll talk about a trial that we've done that looked at the effectiveness of a 6-week online yoga intervention designed specifically for healthcare professionals. It's called Yoga for NHS, and it's based on an established social prescribing program for patients, a longer program. So we wanted to look at whether it would be effective and acceptable to healthcare professionals. So in my presentation, I'll talk about the findings from our trial and the impact on health outcomes for the professionals, those who took part. But I'll also talk about the wider implications based on what participants told us that they enjoyed about the program, the impact that it had for them on their stress management and their well-being, the challenges, but also how they use the tools that they learned during the program. So quite kind of a lot of kind of practical insights as well. And whilst I'm kind of mainly talking about yoga with healthcare professionals, I think this also has really important implications for incorporating yoga into healthcare more broadly, and for patients, because of course, healthcare professionals, they're the ones who are going to refer patients to yoga. We've found in our other research that health professionals who have personal positive experience with yoga also have knowledge about programs that are evidence-based and that are accessible and inclusive and affordable for their patients, they're much more likely to refer. So it has much kind of wider implications as well. So I think this is really important for yoga therapists and yoga teachers, possibly working within the healthcare sector. So that's what I'm going to talk about, and I'm really looking forward to sharing the kind of research, but also in discussions with yoga therapists as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Tina. One of the things at IYT we try to do is spread awareness of yoga and yoga therapy and the potential for work in healthcare systems. And we're always trying to educate healthcare professionals on yoga therapy. So looking at that from the other side, why do you feel it's important for yoga therapists to better understand what helps or hinders healthcare professionals from engaging with yoga?
Well, I think it's really kind of key, because if therapists have that kind of understanding, but also kind of understand the kind of perspective of healthcare professionals, because if they want to work with health professionals or patients, then that's a really good route in, and it's that kind of shared understanding and really being able to respond to health professionals' needs. And so I think it's a really good way to better communicate with health professionals and actually get that access into with the gatekeepers and into kind of healthcare settings. So I think it's a really important dialogue to have, and it's really empowering, I think, for yoga professionals as well, to have that kind of confidence and knowledge base.
Absolutely. A mutual understanding of the needs of both sides.
Definitely.
Thank you, Tina. We really can't
Thank
wait
you.
to see you in June. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
Thanks, Tina. So we are going to move on to our next presenter, Lee Majewski. And Lee will be presenting an afternoon session. You might have noticed in our schedule that some of the afternoon sessions are labeled foundations, or you might see advanced, and that is to help you choose the session that best matches your experience level and your areas of interest. So again, we've taken that feedback because people wanted to better understand, is this going to be a more advanced session or more foundational? And Lee's session so Lee is teaching a foundations session, and it's called The Authentic Therapist, Elevating Service Through Spiritual Practice. So a little bit of background information on Lee. She is an author and researcher and educator and a founding director of the Yoga for Health Institute in Toronto. So after a decade of studying in yoga ashrams, she now shares her work through teaching, writing, and integrative programs for cancer and chronic illness. She co-authored Yoga Therapy as a whole person approach to health. And recently, she's published Spirituality in Yoga. We like to refer to Lee as one of our wisdom keepers. So it's really an honor to have her here with us at SYTAR 2026 and when we're bringing these two conferences back together. So Lee, can you share a bit more about your session at SYTAR and how personal spiritual practice shapes the way that we show up as yoga therapists?
Thank you for having me, and thank you for such a wonderful I'm missing words. This is chemotherapy still playing havoc in my brain. Anyway, introduction. Thank you for such a lovely introduction. The subject of what I will be talking about is coming out from my deep concern about lack of understanding of deeper layers of yoga that many people are exhibiting, and especially about sadhana. I keep hearing that sadhana is a self-maintenance tool for us. What I will postulate is that spiritual development has a deep influence on the quality of yoga therapy service that we provide. So we will examine the tangible and intangible ways that as therapists' spiritual growth influences their professional service, and how personal practice shapes the empathy, the awareness, the intuition, and actually the ability to hold the space for our clients. We will look at the studies and examples of when a therapist's spiritual maturity helps to facilitate a deeper transformation and outcomes of the clients. And then we'll look at practical tools for integrating spirituality into yoga therapy. What I will be postulating is that sadhana is not a self-maintenance, that sadhana is really belongs to core competencies for us as yoga therapists. And we should not be practicing yoga therapy if we do not have an active daily sadhana, because the quality and the professionalism of our service deeply connects to our spiritual development. And so people after afternoon session hopefully will recognize the central role their personal spiritual journey plays in the professional life, and understand that the true transformation in client begins with transformation of ourselves. So that's about it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Whenever we have sessions on spirituality, they tend to be very popular. I think it's an important topic for yoga therapists, yoga teachers as well. And this whole aspect of integrating these spiritual tools into the practice, I think that's quite important. For someone who is early in their journey, or they might be feeling maybe disconnected from the practice, what's one insight from your session that you think might help support them in deepening their sadhana?
Well, the whole understanding of what sadhana is and why we are obliged to have one continuously as long as we practice therapy it answers the question. My understanding is that the many schools of yoga therapy are simply only recommending sadhana to their students, whereas what I will be talking, and hopefully I will be able to have people understand, that sadhana is not an option, that sadhana is core competency, and depending on our spiritual development and the level of our spiritual development, the higher we are, the better we are as a yoga therapist, and the better we are able to facilitate transformation in our clients into the health and well-being. So, so this is something that is that we have to do. You know, in order to be good yoga therapist, we have to have sadhana. Now, there is also misunderstanding that it has to be spiritual. The whole yoga is spiritual. Every practice that we do, whether it's asana, whether it's pranayama, whether it's meditation, whether it's mudra, whether it's chanting, whatever it is we're doing, is spiritual, is taking us inside as opposed to looking outside. And that is spiritual. So it's not something that we just have to understand that yoga is spiritual by its nature. And yoga and sadhana is the tool for our spiritual development. As simple as that.
Thank you for that, Lee. And key in what you mentioned, we have to be mindful of what we are doing for ourselves to ensure that we're showing up in the best possible way for those clients that we're working with. So I get what you're saying here is non-negotiable. It is like
absolutely. It's core competency. It's a core competency. And this is something that I've been fighting for last 10 years to have included in competencies, but it's not still. It's still treated as an option. So, you know, my quest is still a long ways away.
Lee, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add one thing. Yeah, no, it's cool because, you know, I'm always in the background looking at stuff. So I can tell you it's something that people are very passionate about learning about, because I can see the numbers, the registration numbers for your session. So people are very passionate about that. So I think it'll be a wonderful session. And I'm really glad that we get to record all of this to be able to go back and watch sessions that we're not able to see.
And I just want to mention that the same day on Friday, in the evening, we will have a special interest group meeting on spirituality. So whatever we will start discussing in the afternoon session, we can continue in the evening as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lee. I was just going to point that out, that there will be multiple points to engage on this subject at SYTAR. And we know that, as Marita mentioned, it is a really, really popular topic with IOIT members. So come see Lee. There will be 2 opportunities to engage with her at SYTAR.
And I also will be signing the new book.
Yeah, definitely. We will have a book signing Thursday evening. So Be sure to not miss that. The next person that we'll be talking to is Amber Kyliuk. Amber Kyliuk, RKERYT 200. She will be presenting an afternoon session on Saturday, June 13th from 2 to 3:30, an advanced session titled How Curiosity Plays a Key Role in Persistent Pain Recovery. Amber Kyliuk is a kinesiologist and yoga professional who found yoga after university and later deepened her work through critical alignment yoga therapy. Her own experience with back pain led her into pain science and pain reprocessing therapy. And today, she helps clients living with pain return to movement and wellness. You can learn more about Amber and all of the SYTAR presenters by visiting sytar.org, SYTAR.org, and then navigate to the presenter page, and you can find Amber in the afternoon session section. So Amber, welcome. Can you share a little bit about your session at SYTAR and how curiosity plays a role in working with persistent pain?
Yes, thank you for the introduction. And Marita, thank you for the opening, bringing us all together. I have to say, I love the cue that you used about paying attention to your core to let go of some excess usage of it. There's a really big belief, and I'll be talking a lot about all the different beliefs that we have, not only regarding back pain, but pain itself, in terms of you need a strong core to protect your back. You need perfect posture. If your posture's off, there's going to be pain. There's so many beliefs that we've had in the last few decades that aren't very helpful. And we're going to blend this into looking at how we view the old view of pain, that old knowledge and how we would approach it, and the new view of pain. And I draw a lot from the Noi group out of Australia. That was kind of the first big connection that I got with their explained pain, with the pain science. My yoga teacher, when I was in the depths of my back pain, my yoga teacher gave me the book by Bessel van Kolk, Your Body Keeps the Score. And it was really heavy. We're also going to be talking about what I consider the mental load of what happens when you live with pain. And when you're living with pain daily, and there's so much to do, and people don't see how that pain affects you, that mental load takes on a whole life of itself. And what we want to do is learn a little bit about the pain science. Pain science gives us that research-based understanding where there is evidence showing how beneficial it is, because it is a lot different than the old view of pain. But the tendency these days is that we regurgitate it. So if you've learned a little bit about pain science, pain neuroscience, there's this habit that you hear the phrase, pain is in your brain. And for someone who's living with pain, to be told that pain is in their brain, it's very demoralizing. And we need to create this connection where we can take their experience and blend it in to what we can do to help build their awareness of what might be going on and how to look at that bigger picture of what's going on. Because so often we look for that one structural thing. We look for that one exercise that's going to make our core stronger, fix our posture, get our glutes better. And yes, we're going to talk about how the mind and body and breath connect into how we build this curiosity in the body. But the underlying part is that when you live with pain, the tendency is everybody's first go-to is to find that structure that's broken and fix it. And we get these belief systems not only from our beliefs of the last few decades, but of healthcare professionals. And I have so many stories to tell at my session about how this can all play a part and how we can shift this and create that curiosity level, not only of, you know, the person who's sitting in front of you. We want them to be curious about different aspects that are affecting their pain experience, but even for us to be curious. There's so much research that I want to bring into it in a fun way, and talk all about this. And like, I could talk for hours about this. So I'm currently working on trying to get it down to 90 minutes and it should be fun. I think it'll be fun.
Amber, you kind of hinted at this a bit. You know, the way that we think about pain affects our experience of the pain. But for yoga therapists who are supporting clients with chronic pain, how can the way they talk to their clients about pain either support or hinder their recovery?
Yeah, great question. There's so many different belief structures that we come from. And when we look at creating that connection between the mind and body, there's a really great pathway to build into that curiosity for both. Because when we look at back pain, we're so used to looking for different structural aspects. And when we go through the basics of anatomy and how back pain presents itself in the body, we seem to just see those structures. And if you're told, like when I was told in one of my doctor appointments, is that I had severe degenerative disc disease, and all of a sudden, because of my anatomical knowledge, went straight to my back and went, I can see that. But as yoga therapy can work into it, there's the aspect of looking at that bigger picture and seeing what's contributing to a maybe heightened pain sensation when there might not be any tissue structural issues that anybody can find. And it's being able to look at that aspect, especially in the world that we're living in these days, because that's included in the bigger picture of someone's pain experience, to be able to draw in on those connections and build a practice with patience. Did that answer the question at all?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Very, very interesting topic. And I look forward to learning more at SYTAR, and either if I can make it live or in the recording. Thank you.
Kelly. We're often so busy, like our whole team is involved in pulling the we're often so, you know, we say that we want to get there, but most of the times I think most of what I'm able to take in tends to be like the keynote sessions. I'm hardly ever able to get to like the others because you're just so busy in the background making sure that everything goes well. But I get even every time we do this, I'm so excited. I'm sitting here trying to contain myself because, like I mentioned before, I'm an excitable character. But like everything just sounds so good. The programming is just like amazing. That session, in fact, everything I ever heard, I know I'm gonna want to go back and listen to everything. So
thank you.
thank you, Amber. We will now move to our final presenter for today, Stacey Loop. And Stacey is going to be leading another afternoon session. As Stacey is a CIAYT, she's going to be doing an advanced practice, and it's called Meeting the Moment, Thinking Outside the Box with Neurodiverse Clients. So a little background on Stacey. She is a yoga therapist and holistic health coach who focuses on connection through play and embodied communication. She adapts breath, movement, sound, and meditation to individual needs with a special interest in trauma and neurodiversity. With over 20 years of teaching experience, she brings a thoughtful, creative approach to healing and learning. And as we've been saying before, if you want to learn more about our lovely presenters, please visit SYTAR.org. The QR code is in the top left-hand corner, and you can navigate to our presenter page and go into that afternoon section. That keeps session and section keep messing me up there. So Stacey, can you share a bit about your session at SYTAR and how you use creativity and communication to connect with neurodiverse clients?
Yes, I can. Hello, everybody. And I kind of got a little teary-eyed when I heard the introduction and just the joy I feel to be here. And I want to bring just one word. I wrote down one word in my mind and then on paper about everybody that's been talking. And so I'm also an excitable character. So there's our connection. Rob spoke about language and teaching also in another language. Tina spoke about service and research. Lee about spiritual development, and Amber about curiosity. And so those were the words I picked up on because all of those things are a part of my presentation. So it all comes together. And my presentation features the yoga therapy work of mostly an adult client with Down syndrome, but also we're going to touch upon a wee bit of my work with a senior client with dementia. And this is really about entering into their world and having that curiosity and that service heart. And as you develop yourself through your practices, like Lee talked about, you really start to empty yourself so that you can see where's the joy, where's the motivation for the client, where might there be some dysfunction, not good or bad, just dysfunction, and how can we reduce maybe some behaviors and increase behaviors that are more functional. So, it's about the love. And in my training, we looked a lot at function over form. And so if I'm trying to get the brain, like the right and the left side of the brain, just coordinated, I may have to use a non-traditional approach, but I always want to be focusing on the connection and the mindfulness. If I look away just for a second, connection is lost. So what you'll see in this presentation, the first hour is going to really look at methodology. I'm going to have some videos and my work with the client with Down syndrome. I studied that, I noticed that her hands were a vehicle for transformation. Now, I happen to be studying at college sign language. I'm just fascinated with sign language because it's embodied. And I was like, how can I bring sign language together with yoga therapy? So here we go. And my client had a lot of repetitive, ruminating, OCD, confirmed OCD and anxiety behaviors that were showing up in the hands. And so I used some simple American Sign Language, ASL, to transform the movement of the hands. And what you're going to learn and see in the videos and just stories that I tell is how the movement of the hands with function lit up the brain and became a vehicle for expression and motivation and joy. And there's, it's not easy. There's a lot of work going on there. So I'm really excited about that. And then I'll touch briefly upon my client with dementia and how when there was a health change, her anxiety increased so much that breath wasn't accessible, lying down on the back wasn't accessible. So what do? So it's really about that mental flexibility, curiosity, and love that we have for our clients that helps us to shift when they need shifting. And then the last 20 or so minutes of the presentation, we're going to explore an interactive, and I'm calling this Do Movements Say More Than Words? And we're going to take 4 words, not just words like it or so or that, but words that have deep meaning. They provoke emotion. We're going to say it, we're going to sign it, and then we're going to sign it with breath and just see, does that say more than the word itself?
Wow. This is like, that's amazing. Like, first thing, I loved how you pulled out the word, like a word from like what everyone said. I was like fascinated when you did that. It almost made me look at our entire session completely differently. And then I wonder, like, is there like something floating there with how we've pulled together SYTAR, where you have like all these words that you can take from like each of the session? And like, I didn't mention it before, but I love what Amber had there with curiosity is key. I mean, there's an exclamation point, right? Like I love that. So, and then you said something else. I wrote it down. It's simple, but for me, it was impactful, which is like entering the world. Like, I mean, sometimes you know these things, but you don't think about it in this way. Like, part of like communicating and understanding people and being able to make that connection is entering into their world. I was like, whoa, okay, this is pretty cool. So all of that to go like, what might surprise attendees about the role of nonverbal expression, like movement or simple sign language, because you just mentioned that just now, in supporting healing and connection?
Well, I don't know if this is a surprise, but I think that nonverbal says so much. So you can see I'm looking at myself here. I'm kind of doing a little movement. Yes, my lips are moving, but I have this, I want to say, joy in my presence. And I've spent quite a bit of time in the deaf community, and they don't see themselves as disabled in any way. They see themselves as visual champions, and they just have this ability to see. And so I wanted to learn more about that, me being a curious person. And they really see things in, you know, the vibration, the energy of what someone's bringing in. And it just made me take my presence to a whole new level, like a little dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, you know, like that expresses something, like how we're moving. And also in that culture, if you look away, as we so often do in our culture of we lose connection. If I look away, I've lost what you've said. So it changed the way I work as a yoga therapist. And I am a special education teacher. That was my professional background. And you know, I'm also a parent. I raised a son that has some special needs. And I also worked, my dad has now passed away, but he had Parkinson's. So all of these things inform me when I go into work with someone that presents a little differently. And it really is about the presence and the connection.
Thank you. The joy exudes from you.
It does. It's
Yes.
palpable even through the screen. I feel your energy, and
Yeah.
I know you're going to bring that energy to SYTAR. And the other thing that came to my mind with the words that you drew out of everyone's presentations, anyone who has used SurveyMonkey knows that it can generate the word cloud. So I was picturing all of these things coming together as a word cloud.
Cool.
Oh. Well, thank you, Stacey. Thank you to all of the presenters who joined us today, and thank you all for watching. You can visit us at SYTAR.org, that's SYTAR.org, or you can snap on the screen the QR code. Registration is open now, and early bird pricing will end on May 11th, so register soon if you want to catch that extra $100 discount. And join us June 11th through 13th in Costa Mesa, California at the Hilton Orange County, Costa Mesa. Program directors and students of IAYT accredited programs, as well as undergraduate and graduate students, receive an additional $100 discount, and combine that with early bird pricing to save $200. You can email us or use Contact Us on the IAYT website to request your discount. As Marita mentioned at the beginning of our session, all full registrations include the SYTAR recordings, which is both the yoga therapy practice track as well as the research track, and will provide 22 CE credits for CIAYTs. So we thank you again. We hope these sessions have helped you get to know the presenters, and if you're registering, we'll help you choose which session that best aligns with the knowledge area that you want to deepen. This has been our final session in our presenter preview series, and next month we'll begin introducing the sponsors who are helping to make this year's conference possible. If you're interested in learning more about yoga therapy or IAYT, we invite you to stay in touch with us through Instagram at IAYTORG, on Facebook, facebook.com/IAYT.org. LinkedIn, you can search International Association of Yoga Therapists. YouTube, we are at IAYTORG. You can find this recording as well as other recordings there on YouTube. We also have private groups on Facebook for IAYT's member schools and IAYT certified yoga therapists. And we have a LinkedIn group. Again, you can search International Association of Yoga Therapists to find that private group. If you're not a member, we invite you to join or subscribe to our e-newsletter, which is open to everyone, even non-members. It's right on the homepage of IAYT.org. Scroll down and click the Get E-News button to stay connected. We are so grateful for all of you who are watching today. Thank you, and we hope to connect with you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you in June.